Xcel Energy is strongly pushing back on reporting by other media outlets in Denver that Xcel was warned about a natural gas leak in the hours before a house exploded yesterday at 4th and Santa Fe. Xcel is telling us in no uncertain terms that it did not receive any gas-related calls from that area yesterday. Investigators went brick by brick in places today, literally digging into Denver's worst gas explosion in more than 20 years. Then came the heavy equipment and also a trained dog looking for the exact location of ignition. People who live in that multifamily building were also back today as well.
Yes, I know I need to find a home, but that's a big one, so I'm just trying to take it one day at a time.
We saw the Denver crime scene unit out gathering some evidence from one of the units today, and Denver Fire said late this afternoon that they have completed their on-scene investigation. You can start to understand why people a block away from the blast thought that it was their building crumbling. When you see the surveillance video that our Marshall Zellinger got from an art gallery down the street. And Marshall, we got several views now of kind of the ripple out of this explosion. We don't have the one angle that might have showed the most.
Now, conspiracy theorists, get ready for this. The camera here in front of the Space Gallery, I was certain that bubble was going to capture what happened just down the block here. But when I went to the Space Gallery to check out that camera footage, it had gone dark, but the other cameras stayed on. This is the moment a multifamily building blew up from a natural gas explosion. The video was recorded by the security system at the Space Gallery, just a half block away from all this damage. While you don't see the explosion from the interior camera, it helps you visualize the impact.
I just never thought that I would witness an explosion, a quick bang, and then it was really quiet.
This is Manuel Ferreira, and this is Manuel Ferreira, who was helping an artist piece together some artwork for someone's home when the other artwork came off the wall.
We were shaking for like a half an hour after that.
Miraculously, the paintings look fine. Anthony will be delighted that there's no real damage.
Michael Burnett owns the Space Gallery, which has some cosmetic damage from the blast. Drywall on the floor, fireproofing blown out of the wall, some artwork needing to be straightened out, but no damage to Anthony Falsetta's collection that collected on the ground.
I'm glad the art is okay and that everyone else is okay, and I'm kind of hoping that the people that were in the blast are okay.
This outside camera shows the force of the explosion, causing the garage door to wiggle and that side door to fly open. It even buckled the fence for a moment. The blast happened just to the left and outside the view of the camera, but close enough for the sun on the patio to get covered by the dust cloud after about 15 seconds. Now to the camera I thought would have captured the entire event. This camera faces south on Santa Fe. The explosion would have been in this area, but 27 minutes before it happened, this camera starts to malfunction, flicker, and eventually go black. It doesn't come back on until it's raining, with emergency crews already on scene for 5 hours. I also want to point out the good that we see in the people from this surveillance video. 2 people working in the office above the Space Gallery run out after what they hear and run to the scene. We know people in the neighborhood helped rescue those trapped in the collapsed building, Kyle.
Love the fact that everybody went right there to help. Fantastic. Marshall, thank you. So Frederick police stepped before the cameras today. They said everything that we already knew about the case of the missing mother and her kids, and they walked away without answering questions. Can't really blame them, though, if their goal was simply to get this case in the news again, to remind everyone, including the newly interested national media, that they continue to work to find Shanann Watts and her daughters, Celeste and Bella. She disappeared with her purse, phone, wallet, and her car at home earlier this week. Police promised us a fresh 6 p.m. update. Haven't seen it yet. We will relay it here as soon as we have it. The baker from Lakewood, who famously refused to make a custom wedding cake for a same-sex couple, was quietly tested once more. In fact, it was on the same day that his case was taken up by the Supreme Court. Someone came in and asked him to make a cake to celebrate a gender transition. He refused and ended up in trouble with the state again, and now he is suing. And that's the only reason why we've learned of this second challenge, because Jack Phillips of Masterpiece Cake Shop is suing the state and the Civil Rights Commission, saying it's on a crusade to crush him because of his Christian faith. The commission ruled against him in the case of this transgender customer, saying that Phillips discriminated again. His lawsuit names Democratic Governor John Hickenlooper, who spoke about the case today.
Someone who makes a product, a cake, is that a product, or is that an expression of their religious values? And that's the tricky part here, is you have to figure out, I mean, people's sexual orientation is protected.
The Supreme Court ruling this summer in the Masterpiece Cake Shop case did not decide if Jack Phillips discriminated against the gay couple. It just slapped down the state for having an anti-religious bias. All of the conversation today about the transgender cake and the lawsuit, it falls into the same predictable camps. You got the Baker's supporters who say that he's being harassed, and then there are his opponents who say that he cannot be allowed to discriminate. I'd like to suggest another thing to consider here. The civil rights proponents might have picked the wrong person to make an example of again, because in Jack Phillips, religious conservatives already have their battle-tested defendant, and they have the legal team that just won a narrow victory at the Supreme Court. And if they want to make this new case, the gender transition cake case, into the next Supreme Court case, if Phillips is ready for another long legal slog, well, then they're likely to find a more conservative and more friendly Supreme Court waiting for him. Justice Anthony Kennedy, the swing vote, the author of the compromise between religious liberty and civil liberties, he's gone. His replacement is likely to be a lot more sympathetic to the baker from Lakewood. As much of the metro area remains stuck in a haze from wildfires burning across the country, there is a debate raging in Douglas County where the county is asking a private helicopter company to move. Companies helped fight wildland fires in the county for years. A helicopter operates out of the owner's backyard. He told our Steve Stager a move could put him out of business.
We started landing in the pasture here in 2005.
And pretty quickly, Jeff Armstrong had a business, Rampart Helicopters, a private helicopter that works construction mostly, but also contracts for emergency response. Rampart is actually under contract to help fight fires within Douglas County, which is why it surprised him when the planning department came knocking a few years ago.
And they said, okay, you've got to rezone the property or move.
The problem, Armstrong's property is zoned for agriculture, not for commercial business. Something he says he's known for a long time.
I am in violation. I've never tried to hide it. Back in the day, it didn't matter. You didn't even ask permission to do anything. You just moved into an uncovenanted area and you did what you wanted to do.
But through the years, the county seemed to let it slide.
They don't react on it until they get a complaint.
In 2016, they did, getting us to where we are today. In late July, the 3-member Board of Commissioners voted 2-1 to deny the rezoning of Armstrong's property.
They gave me a 90-day letter of abatement, which gives me until October 24th to move all this.
A move he says he might not make.
The county, the Board of Commissioners, the exact same ones who voted no against me, send me a contract every year to provide services for the county.
Most everybody that I know within that community loves him. And so I think there's a few squeaky wheels.
Now nearly 4,000 people have signed a petition urging the board to let him stay.
He's dependable and that he has a heart for that community. He's been a longtime resident here. And I want somebody that knows the land and has that heart that's vested here in our community.
So Dougco still has a contract with Rampart on a call-by-need basis. They've also contracted with a Fort Collins company that keeps a helicopter on a pad in the county to make sure it's zoned property. Now, here's something else that's really interesting about this. The assessor in Douglas County already changed his tax assessment back in 2014 to a commercial property. So in their eyes, they considered it commercial. But the Planning and Zoning Department is a completely different department. They only act on complaints. So when they got a complaint, they went out and looked into it, and they had this debate about whether or not to rezone.
Maybe if he has to move, he can get a refund on his taxes. But what happens if he does have to go and somebody else moves into the property?
So that's that, and that was what the commissioners were talking about through the course of this debate. If we rezone this, it becomes commercial property. So therefore, someone else could do the exact same thing. In this case, that's part of the reason why they decided not to rezone the property and why he would have to move.
Yeah, auto body shop or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, interesting. Steve, thank you. Jared Polis is dropping another fat stack on campaign ads in the governor's race. Democratic nominee announced today he will spend $3 million more of his money on TV ads in the final weeks of the race. Ads likely to feature familiar themes of windmills and his promise of moving Colorado to 100% renewable energy. And a reminder that for now, the only renewable resource in Colorado seems to be Polis's own personal fortune. $12 million and counting in the race so far. Denver's dockless scooter and bike invasion is just getting started. The first electric bikes don't arrive in the city until Friday, and the number of scooters out there is expected to double. Let's zip through these numbers like a hipster on a lime scooting 200 feet between breweries in Rhino. There are 700 scooters in Denver right now, more than 1,000 more arriving in the next 2 months. Jump drops the first 250 electric bikes starting Friday. More than 1,000 are expected by early 2019. So we'll triple the total currently on sidewalks and streets. Enjoy and watch out. People want to make it into a bad thing. Let's see how it works. Everybody be safe out there. Denver Public Works says there are additional companies interested in entering the game with even more bikes, even more scooters, no formal applications yet. And the city gave us kind of a wishy-washy answer today when we asked if they're laying down the law on any of these companies for rule violations. Looks like they want everybody to just get along for now. One of the earliest chapters of their lives was a difficult one.
While they're here, we help them tell their story until they have a story that they feel proud of.
And you've asked us for another edition of What Do You Say? What's the name of this city in western Colorado? What do you say? Use the hashtag HeyNext or vote in our Instagram story. We're at Next with Kyle Clark. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a grandson and grandpa sharing their pride in our state. Planting the flag. Pierce is 2. His Papa Glenn lives up in Silverthorne. Pierce is down in Arvada. Papa Glenn, teach him up young.
A break from the severe weather today, but not the smoke and haze. There's moisture coming into southern Colorado, and that's where we're tracking the most active weather today. Severe thunderstorm warning last hour for Colorado Springs and some heavy rain over some of the burn scar areas in the southwest corner of the state. Our high right about where we should be for this time of year. And there's a severe thunderstorm watch out for North Platte. Showers coming up from the southwest will fuel some storms south of Castle Rock along the I-25 corridor down to Colorado Springs and Pueblo tonight and again tomorrow. All of that activity migrating east-southeast out of the region. A push of easterly winds will bring in a little bit of fog tomorrow for those of you traveling eastbound on I-76 or I-70 early in the day. Denver, a day very similar to today, tomorrow, with the best chance for showers and storms in southern Colorado, areas south of Colorado Springs down to the New Mexico line. Hazy, smoky, and dry tonight in the city, low 60. Tomorrow, a little fog early and then partly sunny, high 88. A better chance of thunderstorms Friday and Saturday. The Broncos game, of course, Saturday evening. And then a bit of a cooling trend heading into early next week with highs in the 70s and lower 80s. Broncos take on the Bears on Saturday night at 7:05 kickoff time, and there is the chance of a few showers, thunder, and lightning around the area. But for now, hard to see through the smoke and haze, Kyle, but I can see the weekend from here.
Thank you, Kathy. Hey, let's play What Do You Say? Wade into another one of Colorado's many pronunciation debates. Today, let's go west, almost all the way to Utah, to a city off I-70 past Grand Junction. This is a popular choice now. Dave, Corky, Karen, and Kristen, who all asked us how to pronounce the name of the city that starts with an F. So we called the mayor and asked, what do you say?
We pronounce it by Fruta, so just like it sounds, the word fruit plus A on the end. And the history of it is we used to be a big agricultural, so a lot of apple orchards and apple trees. And so that's kind of where the base name came from. We do get a lot of people that they see it, spell it as Fruita. They think it's, I guess I don't understand how hard it is. You see the word fruit and A, Fruta.
Mayor Joel is laying down the law. You quiz your friends, ask them what fruit helped found Fruta. Bet you anything people say peaches, you know, for the Western Slope. Apples, be a hit at parties. I'm not that big of a hit at parties. Where should we head next for What Do You Say? Email next@9news.com or flag us with the hashtag HeyNext. There's a kids camp in the Rockies changing lives so profoundly that campers are now coming all the way from Russia. And we'll meet another reason to have some hope for humans, a 6th grader whose back-to-school project is helping hundreds of other students. That's next. Sometimes a kid just wants to fit in, you know, be another face in the crowd. And that can be tough if what the other kids want to talk about is that child's burn scars. Our photojournalist Brian Wendland took his camera to a camp where that is the last question being asked.
Learning to ride a horse is relatively hard work.
Stop eating the grass, please.
Harder than some things, but much easier than what 14-year-old Damon Mays had to deal with.
Going through all the stuff in the hospital.
He's at a special camp in Estes Park for burn survivors.
March 11th. that was the day I got burned.
They might be the only person that has a burn injury in their school or their town, or really they might not have ever met anyone else who has a similar story.
Trudy Bolter directs the Chaley Children's Hospital burn camp. The decades-old camp is hosting 75 kids from around the country and a couple from Russia.
My goal is that every kid that's sustained a burn injury can be whoever they want to be.
Here, that means getting over a fear of heights and rock climbing, or getting in touch with your creative side like Trinity Larson.
Yeah, it's really fun here. I like all the crafts you can do here.
Trinity is a second-year camper, and she says she learned an important lesson last year.
You have to remember that no matter what happens, there always will be people to support you and be there for you no matter what.
Oh, shoot.
Damon is still learning the ropes, but compared to burn treatments in the hospital,
I almost fell off too.
this is nothing.
It's fun. It's like I have control over everything.
For Next, I'm Brian Wendland.
That camp is free to families. It's funded by the community. You can read more about their programs in this article on the next section of 9news.com. Sixth grader in Denver, who just started at McAuliffe International School, isn't so much concerned with her back-to-school routine. For 2 years now, she's been worried about the other kids. Hannah Kutnick has been asking family and friends to skip giving her presents for her birthday and for holidays, and instead she asked them to donate to her effort to buy book bags and school supplies for kids who need them. Last year, she hoped to raise enough to stuff 100 backpacks. She was able to donate 180. And this year, even bigger, raised $3,000, and she put together 300 backpacks. Jewish Family Service of Colorado is helping Hannah deliver those to students in Denver and Aurora and Sheridan and Lakewood. May I make a recommendation? Point you towards something that we did not put together but is worth your time. Next producer Carrie totally geeked out over this NPR story today on the history of backpacks. I had never thought about this before, but NPR chronicles the entire development of the backpack. Began with a leather strap in the 1900s, to the zipper rucksack in 1938, onto the Caribou Cricket in the 1970s, and then LL Bean comes along in the 80s. There's a Boulder connection in this article that's linked to on the 9 News Facebook page. It's time to tell somebody that they've crossed the line, and your feedback next. You people are savages. All you want to do all day long is just tell another Coloradan you've crossed a line. And yeah, it's a truck again. This is becoming a trend. This driver was going to take the space whether that trash can was there or not. Next viewer, Case and Tansy, spotted this in Denver's Highlands neighborhood. All right, keep sending the pictures. We know you love it. Next at 9news.com or use the hashtag #HeyNext. We are expecting an update at 6 p.m. as indicated from Frederick Police on the case of the missing mother, Shanann Watts, and her 2 young children. No update as of now around 6:30. If it comes to us later in the evening, you'll find it on 9news.com, across our social media channels, and on 9 News at 9 and 10. Tons of feedback tonight on my evaluation of the new case involving Masterpiece cake baker Jack Phillips, in which he denied someone a cake over a gender transition. Therese Abbott says, I don't know why anyone would ask the well-known anti-baker to make a cake they know he'll refuse. Hashtag publicity stunt. Well, it could be a publicity stunt or retaliation. Maybe some civil rights activists were trying to force him to comply with what they see as Colorado state law. My take is just, it seems like if this becomes the next test case before the Supreme Court, the people who force the issue might just lose. We'll see you next time.